What's going on, everybody? Good evening, good evening, good evening. It is Sunday. You know what that means. We're having concerned citizens of Birmingham conversations right here on NNP. I am your favorite roving reporter, Joshua J. Raby, better known as the motivator. On the next side of me is the man himself, the activist, the voice of reason, Mr. Keith O. Williams. And next to him is the visionary of this great show, one of the most influential men in the city of Birmingham, as a matter of fact, in the United States, Lonnie
No, sir.
L. Malone. What up,
Oh,
Lonnie?
don't do that. What's happening with you?
What's going on, y'all? Listen, we got a lot of things to
What
cover
it is for the
this evening.
cookies.
We got a lot of stuff to cover this evening, so we're gonna get right into it. I may be popping off because I have to get to the city of Birmingham Christmas tree lighting, but I definitely want you guys to tune in, like, share, comment, get involved in today's conversations. And Lonnie, I'm throwing it over to you.
Thank y'all, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us on Not Necessary Political on this beautiful Sunday day. We'll be on short time. I know we're doing shorter things for the end of the year, but today we got the man behind the plan, Mr. Keith Williams. He said, man, we got a lot to talk about. I said, what we got to talk about? He said, let's just do a show. And I said, okay. So, Keith, what do we have to talk about today?
First of all, everybody, good afternoon. Great to be here on Not Necessarily Political. So there's several things that needs to be unpacked today. Um, for starters, many of you probably know or don't know already that on this past Tuesday, the Birmingham City Council had voted to give Birmingham Southern $5 million loan in order to keep the school open. Um, we're going to be unpacking that. Second thing we'll be unpacking is the amount of gun violence that took place this week. There has been reports several young people either been shot or killed this week that had made the local news. We're going to be talking about that. And the third thing that we'll be talking about is the recent challenge, the continuation of the challenge between two factions of the Alabama Democratic Party, uh, which, of course, I've been to the meeting. They had a meeting, the challengers had a meeting on this past Friday, and I'm really disgusted at some of the results. So we're going to be talking about that. Lonnie, anything you want to add to that?
No, sir. Let's go.
Okay, so first thing we want to discuss, I want to get your thoughts and analysis on is the recent decision for the Birmingham City Council to give Birmingham Southern $5 million. It is not a grant. What happened was it is actually a grant and a loan. If you look at the agenda that was submitted online prior to the meeting, you notice that there was two items uh, dubbed as item one and item three. And one of those items was actually half of it, the way the language dictates is that it's considered to be a grant, something that's given to them. And then in another item, it's depicted as a loan. And of course, you know, the people of the greater Birmingham area are divided over this issue simply because that Birmingham Southern is a private institution that was founded by the Methodist Church. And so oftentimes you don't hear about private schools trying to obtain state money or federal money. They they do not necessarily, I mean, they do not necessarily qualify for public funds because they're not a public institution. But this is not the case here. Birmingham City Council had unanimously voted to give Birmingham Southern $5 million despite public backlash. Um, what do you think about that, Lonnie?
Man,
Should
I'm sorry, I'm trying to do production as well. I see Josh jumped off. My Facebook keeps closing on me, so I can't send everything to my other pages. Um, Looking at what Birmingham Southern does, I know they have a lot of stuff that's taxable dealing with that school. My question is, if Miles College needed $5 million, would they get it?
Yeah, that's my question as well. Another thing that popped on my radar is that Birmingham Southern they went before Jefferson County, they went before the commission, and they talked to the state about getting funding, and they said no. I myself do not agree that public funds should be used for a private institution. And I specifically have called several state legislative members and told them that if any measure that comes up to where to decide whether or not they was going to give them the money, I was like, don't vote for it. Vote no for it because I do not believe that a private institution should be getting public funds. I totally disagree with that. I think it's a slap in the face to all the other private schools that have struggled over the years and they got no help from nobody. And so what you do for one, you got to do for all. So the question remains, two questions remain. Number one, if another private institution was to come to Birmingham and say, we need money, would they show them the same type empathy and gratitude that they gave Birmingham Southern, or they're going to say no? And number two, we had the access sales. Why did the county and the state say no
So the county said
on
no.
funding? No, county said no. That's right. And the state said no.
So
The
we got
question is why?
responsible for the funds,
Who is responsible for the funds?
for giving the funds. Who is responsible for giving the funds?
Well, the from my understanding that the Birmingham Sun came before the Jefferson County Commission, on one end, and then on the other end, on the state, from my understanding, they had talked to some members of the state legislature. Now, I'm not sure exactly where this money was going to come from on both ends. For the state, should it came from the education budget, which I definitely do not agree with that because that's not designed for that. It's supposed to go towards primary education, really, the budget that they have. And as far as the county is concerned, I'm not really sure about that because sometimes when the county gets money from outside sources, maybe from either the state or the federal government from some type of program that they would use that money to give to various nonprofit organizations like, for example, the American Rescue Plan Act money that the county and city have gotten in the last couple of years. They tend to give that to um, nonprofits for some other reason. But in a case like this, for an educational institution, it's kind of hard to determine exactly where that funding is going to come from. But what I do know is that even though in your budgets, whether it's state or county, some elected officials have a nasty habit of dipping into certain funds that are earmarked for something to give to someone else. Like I'm giving an example. When the state of Alabama first got, I think they got $2.5 billion from the American Rescue Plan Act. Governor Ivey immediately wanted to give $400 million towards building prisons and gonna blame it on COVID. But the question is, how did the prison system was affected by COVID, where there are problems that existed within the Alabama correction system um, was had occurred way before the pandemic. So we really have to look at the legitimacy as to why they're asking for these funds and how did Birmingham Southern came into that financial predicament in the first place. Because we really don't know why the county and state said no. But if I was on the city council, that would be the first thing I would find out. If I found out as a council member that the county and the state said no, my first question would be, well, I heard that you're trying to get funds from the Jefferson County and the state, and they said no. Why?
Womack,
If
what's
if
your
y'all
thought?
been if y'all been watching the city council meeting, I mean, it was downright ridiculous. First of all, you had two items, the items 1 and 3. Within 5 minutes, or probably less than 5 minutes, whole thing was over. What happened was is that, and I watched it. They put both items consent, both items 1 and 3, as they was dubbed in the agenda, was placed on consent. And for those of you who do not know how this works, um, every item on the agenda that is put on consent is voted on at the same time. Now, there may be an instance to where a councilman will say, well, I want to add an item to consent or to take an item off of consent. So those two items, items 1 and 3,
So, Womack, what are your thoughts about that? Or John, whichever one y'all can hear me.
Are, are we speaking specifically to the money that the city had given Birmingham Southern, the $5 million?
Right. That's what we. That's
yeah,
what Keith
Yeah.
was talking about earlier.
Um,
Hold on one second, Keith.
I'm sorry about that.
Hold on one second. Go ahead, Womack.
yeah.
Go ahead,
So
Womack.
I think for me, I think there are three things we have to take a look at here. We first have to ask ourselves, how many times within the past 20 some odd years have the Birmingham City Council bailed out any other local college that is in the area? That's the first thing we need to ask ourselves. The second thing we need to find out is we need to find out what is the driving factors behind why the city of Birmingham felt that they needed to get involved with a private college. Birmingham Southern is not a state college, it's a private college. Why they felt that they had to use taxpayers' dollars to get involved in their financial woes. And then the third thing that we take away from this is the fact that why is it that the Birmingham City Council did not come back to the people and ask the people how do they feel about giving their money to a private college? Now, those are three questions that I myself will ask. Looking at this from a political standpoint, if Birmingham City Council would not have given that money, don't you know that they would have been politically scorned because of the fact that this mayor and a couple of these council members have received financial donations from some individuals dealing with Birmingham Southern? But you also have to ask yourself, me being a resident in District 8, do I want a economic engine for the city? Do I want a empty college sitting in the middle of my district? Now we have to look at that. We have to look at that very closely. If that school would have closed, Birmingham Southern never gave the city of Birmingham a layout of what would happen to the campus. You already have a whole bunch of squalors that are going to the field house and are going on certain parts of the campus where it's been neglected. Now think about a whole empty campus up there in the middle of Bush Hills neighborhood, coming off a main corridor going on to the expressway, what that will do to the area. So I get it, but it all goes back to the question. Miles College was having financial issues at least about almost 6-7 years ago. We knew the city of Fairfield couldn't do anything about it. Not one time did the Jefferson County Commission or the Birmingham City Council reach out to Dr. George French and ask how could they assist, even though Miles College is basically operated and ran by the CME Church. Guess what? It does not matter. Birmingham Southern is ran by the Methodist Church. They did not help Miles College. And so I think for me, number one, if I was a city councilor, I would not have voted to give taxpayers dollars without definitely knowing how long it would take you to give me my money back, because we're not giving you a gift. The second thing that I would have done if I was on that city council is would have asked the mayor, Mayor, is this something that we're going to be doing moving forth for every college that's within the city of Birmingham city limits or within our area? Is this something we're looking forward to doing moving forward? And the third and final thing as a city councilor I would have been asking is, what type of president are we setting here of being the loan bank? Now that's what I have to say about it.
What about
I'd
you?
like to add a fourth. I'd like to add a fourth question to that. Another question I was asked is that, well, how did y'all get in this predicament in the first place, and how can you assure us that it would not happen again? You see, there has been, and from my understanding, there's been no transparency on the part of Birmingham Southern as to why they are in this predicament in the first place. I think if that question, along with the three questions that Antwon has mentioned, if they would have mentioned that to Birmingham Southern, I think that it would have cleared up a whole lot of controversy that this has caused.
What do you say, John? Can't hear you. You're not on mute. I don't know what's going on with you. Can't hear you still. Hold on. Let me remove you and add you back. Go ahead, Womack. We can't hear John.
I was just about to give him an opportunity, but no, Keith, I totally agree. I just think what bothers me is the near fact of the matter. And let me state this for the record. I am not against making sure that institutions that provide education for people within the city of Birmingham and other people, that those institutions should be closed. No, but I also believe that one thing that we do have to do, we have to look at the accountability part. Keith, you made mention of how did they get here. This is not, and I know this for a fact, this is not Birmingham Southern's first time in dealing with financial woes. This is actually their third time going through this. This time, the difference between now and the last past time that Birmingham Southern's gone through this, they have had a reserve fund balance to clean up the deficit of what they didn't have. You also have to look at the fact Birmingham Southern's enrollment has dropped significantly over the years, so they're not getting the individuals that they used to. My question then will become this, and then I see John, because I definitely want to hear and see what he got to say. One thing that I like to know at this point that ain't nobody said anything about is how many scholarships have Birmingham Southern given Birmingham City Schools children?
Yeah, that was actually brought
That
up
is a
on
question I would like to know.
that was actually brought up on the think tank one. I think it was Wednesday. Was brought up with
How
Chris
many of our
Coleman asked the
children?
question, how many scholarships was given to seniors in Birmingham City schools to go
Yes,
to
I want to know that.
Birmingham Southern?
Well, okay. Let me chime in and address some of these things because I'm neither I'm on I'm one of those ones that I place the fault of a lot of the problem at Birmingham Southern solely at the foot of Birmingham Southern. But the flip side of that is also that they employ a number of people in the community and in our community specifically. So they have a pretty large occupational tax base that we draw from up there at the school. Um, so, but let me give you guys a little bit of history. Uh, Birmingham Southern undertook about 15 years ago a major rebuilding process, and they just basically rebuilt the campus. In that rebuilding process, they kind of overbuilt their budget. Is how they got to where they are now. So they've got an exponentially amount of debt compared to their endowments. And one of Birmingham Southern's biggest problems is, if you guys want to talk about scholarships, is if you guys would research the actual cost of college. Birmingham Southern's problem is the same problem that a lot of private institutions have. That is, their actual cost of college exceeds the amount that is allowed by the federal government, which means that grants and student aid is not allowed to cover that balance of a student's cost to get into Birmingham Southern. And what that means is, if you get a scholarship to Birmingham Southern, um, that cost was covered by the school, but by them being a private institution and their cost exceeding the guidelines what the federal government allows, the additional cost that a kid could get for a student loan didn't cover all the cost. So if you had a kid that could qualify to go to Birmingham City School kid that could qualify to get into Birmingham Southern College, a scholarship that Birmingham Southern gave them would not cover the full cost of their tuition and board. Therefore, grants would not cover it. So therefore, what was left was the kid had to get student loans. Then the student loans still did not cover the cost of tuition. So that's why, if you look at Birmingham Southern, there's never been a lot of minority or inner city students that have ever gone to Birmingham Southern College throughout the years. So that should answer the question about why there's not an influx of Birmingham City school kids going to Birmingham Southern. The other part that Antwon brought up was, I'm trying to go in order, but I think this was the third one you talked about, Antwon, was you want to know how long it's going to take to get your money back. Now, this is the problem that I have with the whole deal. It's a sweetheart of a deal. Okay. They're basically saying is $2.5 million of the five is a forgivable loan. And it's forgivable provided that Birmingham Southern opens in 2024 for students. So the first 2.5 million, all Birmingham Southern has to do is be open for the 2024 school year. The first 2.5 is forgiven. The other 2.5, this is what I call a sweet deal, y'all. I'm telling you, I wish I get a deal like this. They get $2.5 million. at 1% interest spread out over a 20-year period. Give me a damn deal. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Give me a deal like that. So listen to this again. These are the terms of the other $2.5 million. They get $2.5 million over a 20-year term at 1% interest. This is what they voted for. So those are your terms, Antwon. 2.5.
So you basically telling me
2.5
So you
million.
basically telling me $5 million of taxpayers' dollars, 2.5 to you, and we basically allowing you to, in some terms, give us $1 or $5 back over the next 20 years with no stricter stipulations. So we just gave the money.
Basically, yeah. They got a 1% interest rate. They got a 1% interest rate on $2.5 million, and it's amortized over 20 years. It's a payback, but listen to this. It ain't much of a payback. There ain't no interest, basically. They basically have given them $2.5 million. That's better what they did. Because at a 1% interest rate over 20 years, they ain't paying back no more in interest than probably $10,000 in interest. Is all they paying back. So, like I said,
$2, which is like, to be honest, chump change.
Yeah, it's not much. It's not much. So the other part, my whole issue with the whole deal with Birmingham Southern is this right here. Is they have an endowment that is slowly going away. Okay, because the lion's share of the students that make up Birmingham Southern are over the mountain students and wealthier students. So what has happened over the years is
that's correct.
Those families, listen at this part. Those families are now dying off. So you don't have that continued growth in their endowments. So where they may have been raising $5 million, $2 million a year, those families are dying off. So they aren't raising the same amount of money that they used to raise. The other part of it is that there is a smaller, like you said, Antwon, there's a smaller enrollment. So you have a smaller number of people coming in, and you also have a smaller endowment that's being able to be kept up every year. So Birmingham Southern is going to have problems going forward, and they're going to have the same problem that every private institution has. That is, the cost to go to school at Birmingham Southern continues to rise, and they can't keep up with that because they don't have the endowment. So I am neither for nor against the Birmingham Southern getting the money. I just don't like the way that they structured the transaction. That's my problem.
Well, I guess my question then becomes this, Lonnie and Keith, John.
Man, don't put me.
My question is that when dealing with, oh no, you have to be a part of this. This is a part of holding folks accountable. You can't run from being an accountable holder. It is. So the question we have to then ask ourselves: who in the hell down in City Hall in the legal department was okay with allowing such a catastrophe to even get out of the doors? And then my question is, who in the mayor's office, excluding him? I'm going to exclude him. He's not a part of this. Who in the mayor's office thought it was okay to basically take a predominantly white school and give them money from a 75% black city, just give that money away, when I know for a fact, and this ain't no hearsay, but I know for a fact that George T. French, Stephen Hart was on the board of trustees for Miles College. They inquired to the city of Birmingham for help, and they did not help. And that is an all-black school.
Well, in fairness.
And then we have a majority black city council.
Well, in fairness, because I spoke with some people that was in Bell's administration about Miles College. when he actually was on the council, because he was on the council then. I mean, I just got back on the council, but I inquired.
He sure was.
I inquired because it was actually Kincaid's administration. But I inquired. Now you got to remember that most of these guys went to Miles. You know, Kincaid went to Miles. The problem that the city had was that Miles College is not in the city.
Did.
So that was the biggest problem that the city had with giving Miles any monetary assistance. If you remember correctly, they were trying to get to annex Miles College.
But I guess my question,
they were trying to get, hold on, Antwon, they were trying to get to annex Miles College.
Oh yes, they've been trying to do that for years.
They were trying, but the whole premise behind the annexation was so that they could help them out financially. See, people don't actually get the whole story. It wasn't about trying to take Miles from Fairfield. It was about having the ability to help them financially. Now, going back to the other part that you spoke about who did all this in the mayor's office. One thing you got to understand, Antwon, is everybody in City Hall works for the mayor. So it doesn't matter whether they like it, don't like it, or whatever. They work at the behest of the mayor. So when a contract is drawn up and these loan terms were given, it didn't matter whether they were good, bad, ugly, otherwise. They were done at the behest of the mayor's office. So the ultimate authority in this whole thing, Antwon, that you got to see is, you saying you can't put it at the foot of the mayor, is there would never have been a contract, loan agreement drawn, or otherwise given unless the mayor had to give that direction. That's number one. I'm not saying whether it's good, bad, or otherwise. If we're going to lay blame and castigate people, then we need to put it where it belongs. The problem that I have is with the whole thing that we're doing with Birmingham Southern is the way that the transaction is put together. For what they've basically done, you just basically, what you just said, basically giving them $5 million. Just go ahead and say that. Don't cloak it in the idea that it's a loan that, you know, they got to do all this stuff with, because it's really not. I would like to see anybody, any black business in this city should be able to go right now before the city and say, I want to borrow $500, $500,000, because they didn't put any stipulations on Birmingham Southern. Just think about this for a minute. If you as a business in this city and you want to get money through their economic development loan, you have to right now have an irrevocable letter of credit in the amount of any amount that you want to borrow. They didn't hold that to Birmingham Southern. Okay. The reason why the state of Alabama did not loan Birmingham Southern money is because the state treasurer said it's a junk bond. They were not worthy of a loan. That's why the state didn't give them any money, because there's no guarantee that 2 years or 3 years that Birmingham Southern will still be in business. It's a junk rating, which basically means they credit is like somebody.
So then guess what? This is what it come back to now, John. This is what it come back to. And I'm glad that you have broke it down. That's why I said I want to hear from you, because now you have broke this thing down to the common denominator. Here it is. We pointed out in the beginning that Birmingham Southern is basically handed and funded through rich whites over the mountain. They basically have kept the floor of Birmingham Southern above and off. If you look at the past mayor election and you look at the finances of the current mayor, most of his big money came from whites over the mountain. So a lot of what he is doing, without even hesitating or even thinking about, he got a lot of debt and gratitude to pay back to these individuals. Now, if he didn't give a care, he probably would have given $10 million. And this council, who has rubber stamped everything for this mayor, probably would have went along with it. But what bothers me And where it goes back to my initial question that I would like to know the answer to, and I'm going to ask Councilwoman Carol Clark when I see her. Have we now established a precedent that we are in business of getting institutions and businesses out of debt without any regulations or stipulations of how they're going to return the city's money? Because Birmingham Southern has truly not really have like poured out a lot into the Black communities.
Well, and I know some other people want to chime in, but I'm gonna leave this part. I'm not gonna leave, but I'm gonna leave with this. We all know, everybody on here is pretty well versed in how politics work in this city. So we ain't got to go round and round amongst ourselves talking about where the money comes from that goes into political campaigns. I mean, that's something that we already know. We know where the big money comes from. It's from over the mountain. Even with that being said, like I said, the whole issue that I have with the money going to Birmingham Southern is, if you're going to do this and you're going to label this as a economic development priority, this is just me as a business person. Why not make it an economic priority for underserved businesses in the community? Go to them with the same kind of terms. Don't tell me you didn't tell Birmingham Southern they had to have an irrevocable letter of credit. Then, if you can do it for one, regardless of the amount of money, because here's my thing: the economic development fund for the entire city that they loan out to people is only funded with $5 million a year. So, and if you're going to say now that Birmingham Southern has qualified for economic development funding, they don't have to go through the same processes that every other small business have to go through, then don't tell me, because this is the problem I have, y'all. Then don't tell me you can't change the rules and the setup for your economic development loans, because you just did. Don't say that, because the biggest hindrance to Black, I'm just put this out there, to Black businesses in this city is getting a irrevocable letter of credit. I don't give a damn, excuse me, I'm sorry. I don't care if it ain't but for $10,000. It's nearly impossible for you to get a irrevocable letter of credit. The number one reason is most banks don't even do those anymore. You can't go and ask for an irrevocable letter. They don't even do it anymore. You have to have one of the largest banks in the nation, and you can't get it from here. They don't do irrevocable letters of credit anymore.
So we've given out $5 million to the World Games, which we knew was going to be a bust. One of the top leaders in the World Game has said we've been losing since 1981. We knew it was going to be a bust. We helped out vendors. We're throwing $5 million around like it's, and it must be chump change. I don't know. Maybe I'm not that rich to be able to just throw $5 million around. And to have a council, that's who I'm more concerned with, is the council. Even
Yeah,
though
I was mentioning, exactly what happened at the meeting before I was actually uh, cut off here. So I'm going to start from the beginning and try to be as quick as I possibly can. Now, in their agenda, it was items 1 and 3 on the agenda. The committee as a whole, which consists of everybody that's on the council, they unanimously approved this measure to be placed on the agenda before the entire council. It was recommended by the mayor's office and the financial department. But when I looked at the actual meeting, everybody, all city council members was absent. I think maybe about 2 or 3 of them was absent. But what happened was, it's just simple. It just came less than 5 minutes. They put those items on the agenda, and they put it together with all the other items that was on consent, which is voted on all at one time. And within less than 5 minutes, it was over. Bam, they gave it to them. Now, I did hear in the background that somebody from the audience wanted to take those items off of consent, and the council president, Darrell Quinn, simply says you're out of order. Now, I thought it was the standard procedure that if any member of the city council or citizen would like to add or take something from consent, that they'll be able to do so. That's in the
No,
that's what's written. That's what's written. That's what's
no,
it's not.
that's not correct. That's not correct. A citizen can't take anything off the consent agenda. The agenda is the agenda of the city council, not of the city. So a citizen has no authority to say, I want to take something off consent. Let me tell you how it works. This is how it works. Every week prior to the city council meeting, there is an agenda that's sent out with every item that's going to be brought up before the council to be voted on. Okay. A council member has the right to either vote for it on consent or take that item off consent. That happens in the committee of the whole meeting, which happens the day before a regular city council meeting. So the consent agenda is voted on prior to a city council meeting.
Before.
So every item is already put out there. So what the council does is they take a vote on every item to determine whether it's going to be on consent or it's going to be brought up for what they term as a public agenda item. If it's a public agenda item, that means that there'll be a public hearing to take place on that item. That's when the community has a right to speak for or against an item. That's how the consent agenda works. If an item is on consent, the only people that can take it off the consent agenda to have it discussed is a member of the council, not the public. Not the public.
I understand what you're saying, but I know in years past that I have, on certain items in the past, I'm not saying this is always the case, but for me, prior to the city council meeting, I have talked to several council members, and requested that this item be removed from consent so that the public would have an opportunity to discuss it, and that has happened. Now, I'm not saying that that's not always the case, but this is just me. What
you're saying, what I'm saying what I'm trying to get you to understand is
I understand what you're saying.
You have to make that request to a council member. Then the council member has the authority to remove that item. If the council member,
that's what I did. That's what I did.
On it all, it ain't gonna happen.
Hold on, guys.
That's what happened with the Birmingham Southern thing. If the council member don't want to take it out and put it on consent, that's what I'm trying to get you to understand.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, but I get that.
The council played just a bigger part in this, going back to what Antwon said, than anybody else, because they did not want public input. That's the problem. See, that's what I keep trying to go back and get y'all to see is I ain't got no problem with them giving them money. But the people in the community should have had a right to say something. The council and the mayor's office basically cut off any kind of debate on this item because they put it on consent. Period. See, now that's how it happens.
This is
Lonnie,
you shaking your head, man. Come on, say something. Don't be sitting
there. I mean, it's our, it's our money. It's our money.
Watch this right here.
You mean to tell me that I'm paying? You mean to tell me that I'm paying taxes in this city? And I'm supposed to go along with whatever, they say?
No.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
No.
That
No,
is utterly ridiculous.
you know,
That
no,
means I'm putting money to this city as a taxpayer, but I don't have a right to know where my money is going.
Yeah, that's what
it,
they
That's
expect. 'Cause
ridiculous.
you're
it's
not supposed
not
to ask
even.
questions. Watch this
It,
right here. Let me ask this question right here. I'm gonna ask everybody on the panel this question right here. Do y'all know where the $5 million that they're giving to Birmingham Southern is coming from? Do y'all know where the money is coming from? That's a question for y'all. Lonnie, anybody. Y'all know where the money $5 million coming from?
From my understanding, well,
Oh,
from my
Antwon, you ain't saying we see your
from
mouth
my
moving, but we can't
understanding,
hear
this
you.
money is coming from.
Lonnie.
yes, sir.
What about now?
Go
Am
ahead.
I
What's that?
dead?
Go ahead, because for some reason these
Okay,
these
I must not be the one that's talking then.
no. It is. I think I'm gonna have to go
Because
back
I
to
can't hear
Zoom.
nobody right now.
I'm gonna have to go back to Zoom. Can you hear me? Can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you hear
Okay,
me?
I can hear now.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back to Zoom.
But I can't hear Lonnie though.
StreamYard just not doing it for me. I'm gonna have to go back to Zoom, man, because this kind of stuff is too important. It's always messed up when the information is trying to get out there. Tell us where the money come from, John. Can you hear me, John? John, can you hear us? Hello? Womack, can you hear
What
me?
about now, Lonnie?
I can hear you. John, can you hear me?
Lonnie,
Yeah,
I
can you
can
hear
hear
me?
Now I
you.
can.
Can you hear me?
Antwon, can you hear me? Hello.
Can you hear me,
Yeah, I can
John?
hear you.
Okay, but I can't hear. I can hear you, but I can't hear Lonnie.
I don't know what's going on. Tell us where the money
And I
come
see him
from.
talking.
Tell them where the money come from.
I'm gonna
Hey,
go out. I'm gonna
John,
go out and come back in.
I would think that they're using money that.
Keith, can you hear me?
yes, I can hear you.
John, can you hear me?
No, I can't hear you, Lonnie.
John, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, Lonnie wants to know where did the $5 million come from that the city of Birmingham gave to Birmingham Sun?
Oh man, this is gonna trip y'all out right here. Do y'all know it used to be called? It used to be called the Birmingham Fund. Y'all remember that money? Now they
Oh
call
yeah, I
Mhm.
remember. Oh yeah, I
now
remember.
calling it something. It's got a new name now. It's the some kind of excess, something that they call it. But you know, I'm gonna give y'all some history on that. Y'all know in years past that money had got down to less. They're supposed to maintain in that fund a minimum of 3 months of all of the city's debt service payments. They're supposed to maintain that, but they had got down in there when Langford came in and then Bill came back in. This is why Bill was talking about the money was so short in the city. They had spent down this reserve fund. They had spent that money down to where
Right.
they changed the law because initially they're supposed to keep 6 months in. This how the math get funny. Well, Langford came in and changed it because the fund that got so low that they didn't have to maintain but 3 months. But this is the unique thing, you guys. That fund now has over $200 million in it. Did y'all hear what I just said? $200 million in the reserve
Guys,
fund.
and it wasn't like that before because if you go back to fiscal year 2021 budget, the one during the pandemic, they actually used, I think, about 25 million of it to cover their losses. There's supposed to have been a $63 million shortfall, and they used $25 million out of that fund to make up for that shortfall, that they have. And now you're saying they're growing to over 200 some $1 million?
Yes, let me see. This is why I like to tell people.
I always tell people, Lonnie attest, I always tell people, get information for yourself. Don't depend on no politicians. Don't depend on anybody, because they all hell. I'm willing to bet you that the majority of the city council don't even know that. That's the amount of money that's in the fund now. Because politicians are I'm not gonna call them shady, but they smart. Okay, if y'all remember correctly, the city had 2 bond issues that they did. That was one was they did
That's
the total
correct.
amount was $150 million. They did 175, then they came back and did another 75. All this was right around the pandemic time. I think it actually passed during Langford's administration. The money, they actually went into the bond market for this money. Okay, so the money was actually placed
I
into the
thought I
city.
thought it was on the I thought it was on the bail.
Now, I think when they actually started spending money was on the bail, but the bond issues actually came about
Okay.
under Langford. Okay, so imagine they got the money placed into the city coffers, but here's the unique thing about it: there were very few projects funded. So you had 75 to $100 million that's placed into the city coffers, that the city, in addition to the rest of the money that they have, that they're drawing interest off of. All that interest off that money is going into the reserve fund. Okay, now check this out. So in addition to that, y'all remember years ago when they used to have what they called the blue book? Y'all remember the blue book? Y'all remember the blue book, right? So the city has notoriously, every administration has notoriously used money, what they call salary surplus. Those are jobs that are budgeted for in the budget that they have to budget for, but they never fill the positions. All that money under Randall Woofing has been going into the reserve fund. Let me tell you why they've done that. Because the city has over $400 million in unfunded liabilities. That's the pension fund for the city. For the last 20 years, the city has not been putting their lion's share of the money into the pension fund. That means the employees' money has been going into it, but the city has not been matching that money. They have been using what they call the growth. So they've been basically saying that we ain't gonna put no money in.
Right.
We just gonna go off the little interest that's coming, but that has not been enough to keep up with the liabilities. This is why I tell people you have to read for yourself. So what Randall did is it's a smart thing now, y'all. I'm not saying it's stupid. It's a smart thing. What Randall did was to start taking all of that excess money, put it into the reserve fund so that the city's bond rating and the rating of the city wouldn't drop. Do y'all understand what I'm saying? The only
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember that. I read the Fitch credit rating report. I think for 2020, if I'm not mistaken, and everything that you mentioned was in that report. If they did not, if the city have not done that, their credit rate would have dropped even further than what it was in 2019.
exactly. So listen to this. So I want to educate. I think our ultimate goal is to educate people. Randall came into office, and when he found out about the deficit, and it ain't just Randall, it was Bell, it was Langford, it was Kincaid. It goes back 25 years. This ain't nothing new. So every administration has bared some responsibility. What Randall did was the first thing that he tried to do was he wanted to switch the pension fund over to Bronner at the state. Okay, that was an issue because the state's qualifications and things it takes to be on the state pension is different than what the police and the fireman pension is. The police and the firemen, not the general employees, but the police and firemen's pension is what sets the city pension board apart from everybody else. Okay, and this is why. because we have what's called a supplemental pension, which means that we can retire at the age at 20 years, which means that we are paying into basically two pension systems, a regular pension and a supplemental pension. These pensions have over $1 billion in them together. Okay? We pay into those systems. So if you retire at 20 years, you draw off the supplemental. If the city had went to straight state, all of that would have been done away with. So you would have been giving Bronner over $1 billion of police and firemen money that we would not have had any additional access to. So you know what happened? The police and firemen, they raised almighty hell.
Mm-hmm.
What they did was they came up with another gimmick, what I like to call it. So they said, okay, everybody that comes into the system after 2021, we're going to decrease the amount of your benefits into the pension system. So they make now a police and fireman now pays a higher percentage to be a part of the pension system than they ever did before. But watch this right here. In negotiating with the bond holders and the rating agencies, what Randall did was, man, they got some smart folk working now. I'm not taking nothing against them. What they did was they said, okay, we're going to do a catch-up. So what the city has been doing for the last 2 years is, in what Randall like to call it, they've been paying an additional, $15 to $20 million into the pension system. But he wants to make it seem like they're doing everybody a favor by doing that. It's not a favor to the employees and the citizens and people in the city. It's what the city has not done for the last 25 years. So listen at this. This is what they're doing. So they're taking money out of the general fund. They're good at politicians good at moving money, I'm telling you. So they take money out of the general fund, which decreases the amount that they can give to everybody else. So they put it out there like, oh, we got to do this because the rate agents tell us got to do it. Instead of taking that money out of the reserve fund, they take it out of the operating budget, which reduces the amount that they can get everybody else. Now, when they want to make a sweetheart deal like they're just doing, they don't want to take that money out of the operating budget. No. We don't want to deal with the operating budget. Now we're going to take this money out of the reserve fund money. So I just want y'all to just think about that for a minute. I just let that marinate for a minute. See, I don't even think a lot of the council members realize what's happening. This is one of the major, I'm not knocking anybody because everybody got a right to do what they want to do. This is one of the major reasons why, in my opinion, I think Randall got rid of a lot of people, the institutional knowledge that was at City Hall. If you look back, there are a lot of the people that were there through various administrations. When Randall came in, he got rid of everybody. There is a strategic reason why that happened. Because that's institutional knowledge. Antwon, you want to talk about why stuff it's been done the way it's been done? Because there's not any institutional knowledge there. There's not anybody down there that you can go to and say, hey, man, can y'all tell me how much money on the council? Can y'all tell me how much money in the reserve fund? Hell, don't nobody down there know. Because ain't nobody been down there long enough to be able to tell. I guarantee you, the lion's share of the people that are working in the council and work in Randall's office, they couldn't even tell you what the Birmingham Fund was. I can talk about this all day, but I want y'all to chime in because see, I'm all about information. I don't like to play politics. Right is right, wrong is wrong. I just want people to be able to make informed decisions. I'm gonna go back to this and I'm gonna leave it with this one more time. My whole problem with the Birmingham Southern money is it goes back to they did not allow, right or wrong, they did not allow public comment. The people from the public should have had the right to be able to voice their opinion. Whether you're going to give them the money or not, I don't really give a shit, excuse me. But the public has a right to voice their opinion. They did not allow that to happen. That's my problem.
But they don't allow. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we hear you now, Lonnie.
Yeah.
They don't allow. They haven't allowed us to do this. The whole administration, from the stadium to Birmingham Southern. When I tell you, man, I
Let's not forget about the
appreciate.
budget. Let's not
I,
forget about the. Let's not forget
now
about
the budget. The budget is not
the
done
budget.
anymore.
That was
I
a disaster.
I appreciate the information you all put forth. I'm purposely not saying anything a lot of times anymore because, dog, I'm really just tired. I'm not mentally, I have never been a person who could just constantly try to get you to believe something.
Yep.
And we gave $5 million to World Game without a thought, man. It was like, here, but you don't have black businesses growing. And now if you would have said, okay, we giving you $5 million, but black business has grown 35 to 50%, right? I would have been, okay, we doing something. Okay, we can allow something else. But black business haven't grown. In a black city, I just had this conversation just Thursday or Friday. I had to tell a lawyer. I said, you do know there's not really, they were looking for a black sports bar to go watch the game. They had family coming in from different places. And they said, there's no black sports bars? I'm like, no, not for real. You got On Tap, you got Walk On, which is they're white, but you don't have black owned stuff like that. We may have some clubs and the stuff like that, but a lot of black business, you think about this, where can you really go get soul food from? Now, before you down soul food, remember when you go eat Mexican or you go eat Chinese, that's their version of their soul food. Them tacos you eating, that's their soul food. Now, we may have other stuff, but that's the stuff they lived off when they came over here. Now they making profit off of it. But bro, when you said $200 million, because I remember this. Now, one thing about NNP, because I realized I was just told during District 55 race that NNP is clout chasing, which was thrown off to me because we don't even interview, if you notice, we haven't interviewed politicians in a long time. That's designed by me. I don't want to interview them. Right? But we was told we were clout chasing because we were talking about people may not come out to vote during Classic. Now, please tell me, how am I clout chasing if all I'm saying is during the Classic, people they ready to relax. That's basically like a week of just relaxation kind of thing. So I get it. Then I had it. Now you think back now, if you can search the archives of videos, I can start putting them back out there. We had an interview with the former, I think it was the president of or used to be, of the police for union, when they was talking about the what you just said about the retirement stuff. And they broke it down just like you did. That's why I'm telling you, the stuff we put out, and for the record, I'm not going to be saying other people's name like radio stations and stuff anymore because they never say our name. So from here on out, guys, we heard it on the other radio station, or we heard it on it. You know what I'm saying? Because that's important. Because if they would shout us out, people would listen just like when we shout them out. People go and listen. They're respected. We're respected. So until they give us shout out, bump it, man. I'm not. Because a lot of times some information they get come from us. Same thing, we use their information because we trust their information. See, I realized, man, you gave $5 million to an organization, and I'm calling them an organization because you can call them a school, whatever you want to. It boils down to a non-profit or for-profit organization that has not done anything for Birmingham, Alabama. You understand what I'm saying? I don't know anybody who say, well, we going to Birmingham Southern to do this day or clean up. I'm just using. I'm not using cleanup. I'm so tired of these cleanup days because we got a city that's supposed to clean up. But you haven't said anything about fire science, right? Or law science, whatever you want to call it. Why not you have a class about teaching about being law officers and then how to be firemen and getting these children or going to these Birmingham schools and even do a reading day?
Lonnie, it's all private, Lonnie. That's that. See,
well, Omega Sci-Fi is private, and we go read books for the kids.
Yeah, but
you got college students who can come. They school may be private, but they're regular people. They can come out and go into the communities.
Right, Lonnie. Watch this right here. We all know why. I mean, Birmingham Southern that's not. I mean, since I was a little boy, we all knew that was a white institution. I mean, that is not, to me. That's why them asking for money to me is not surprising. I just have always wondered when it was going to happen. It's not surprising to me because, like I told you, when I was in high school, I was in high school athlete in the city of Birmingham. I was an all-state, all-city basketball player. Okay, Birmingham Southern never sent anybody to scout anybody in the Birmingham City schools. I'm just being honest with you, and there are reasons why. I explained to you, because it's the cost of institution. It's the cost to go to school there. So if we all know that, let me give you an example. Miles and Birmingham Southern are probably one of the two most expensive colleges in the city to go to. Whether you know it or not, Miles is very, very expensive. So if you already know that the schools are expensive, and my problem with Birmingham Southern is they have never tried to accommodate or change their policies to include the people that in the community that they sit in. That's my problem, because they could have very easily, you got an endowment, just like you just said, Lonnie, you've got an endowment, you got all this money. It's very easy to say, okay, we're going to give back to the community, so we're going to have a class that we're going to do out here that meets 3 times a month. We're going to partner with the police department. We're going to partner with the fire department. I'm just using those as an example. To say, okay, we want to get some kids to teach them CPR. They could have partnered with the Red Cross here. They could have partnered with anybody to get kids on that campus that in the middle of a black community. They don't even do campus tours anymore, Lonnie. I'm just being real. So I look at it like this, and it's passionate to me. I just have always wondered when the ask was going to come. It's always been to me, because I've been saying for many, many years. We used to go up there as the basketball for the fire department. We used to go up there and play basketball on our off days. And I've always said, you go up there and look on campus, man, it ain't 100 cars on campus. I've always said, when is the ask going to come? Because they got all these beautiful, nice facilities that they undertook under 2 presidents ago. They spent $60 to $70 million in upgrading facilities when they didn't have the students then. Just read about it. It's common knowledge. So I'm like this. I'm tired of calling a spade, because here we all know they're a spade. It's time to say, okay, what now are we going to do about that spade? That's my thing. And that's why I asked you, Lonnie, where you going to run and where you going to do certain things. Because, we can talk about it and say it ain't right, what they're doing ain't right. But until we start getting the information out there like you're doing now, Lonnie, with these info things that we're doing now, until people start understanding and really getting some knowledge, we're going to keep getting the same thing. And the only way people are going to get knowledge is we got to start telling them. We got to start telling people, hey, man, listen, this ain't what it seems. This is actually what's going on. It ain't what they telling you ain't the truth. It's only part of the truth. You see, that's what politicians do, Lonnie. Don't you get caught up in that game that they play. See, a politician will tell you half the story without telling you the whole story. And they'll say, well, I didn't think you need to know that. That's how they do. It's the same thing with Randall. I think Randall has a good heart. I really do. But he's got caught up into the political game that everybody else plays. If you listen to his interview when he talked about the stadium, he never said one time that they undertook a study of the BJCC's finances. Because if he tells you that, then he has to make available all the data that goes with that. Why do you think that they are still holding on to the disparity study and not making that public? There's a reason behind that. He doesn't even talk about it because if he starts talking about it, then people are going to start asking questions. Well, why are they going to do this? Well, why you didn't do this? That's why I made the statement a minute ago is about they made this an economic development issue with Birmingham Southern. He was very careful in the words that he used when he went before the council. If you notice, he didn't say that they were just out of money and they didn't have no money. He specifically said that Birmingham Southern is an economic driver in our community. Those were his words. I ain't not making this. Y'all make me cuss. I ain't making it up.
For the county.
Yeah,
I always talk
I
about
get it.
countywide. He
The
always
problem is that he did not go into detail as to why. He just
Exactly.
made that blanket statement, hoping that no one would catch up to it, like he does all the time. And
Exactly.
he said those things so that people would not question his train of thought or whatever he's doing. In other words, he's counting on the people of Birmingham be dumb as hell. That's basically what it is. And then when you find out about stuff like that, and then you want to go and tell people the truth, they try to shut you up.
Well, not
Well, we're not having that here.
they don't try to shut you up. They shut you up because
No,
what
yes,
they
they do. No, I mean
what
you're
they,
right. They don't try to shut you up. They will in some cases.
yeah, because
Hey, hold on one second, guys. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, thank y'all for joining us on this Sunday. You have concerned citizens that are on from the rest of the year. We're going to be on here on Sundays at 3 p.m. If you'd like to join, all you have to do is send me an email and a reminder, and I'll make sure we put you on here. These guys have just been here for years now, man, and we just formed a bond where we can just talk about politics, and even if we have to battle against each other, we don't necessarily have to be on the same team or agenda on something. But as long as we get that information, one thing you do when you get on here, you can't provide false information, because if we realize it's not true, we will stop you and we'll call you out on it. So don't just get on here just throwing stuff out. Today we was talking about the Birmingham Southern. We didn't get to the other stuff. Next week we're gonna try to get on the violence, because at the end of the year we have broken records every year. And one thing that was said was, if crime is high, blame the mayor. But now in this administration, you can't blame the mayor. It's not the mayor's fault. So I'm confuscated on what is going on. I made a statement on Facebook the other day, and I took it down. I should have kept it up there. I said, basically in a way, pay attention to what people are saying when it comes to politics. I said, Lonnie Malone, will run for office in 2025. Now, here's the thing. I gave you information, but I didn't tell you nothing. Because in 2025, I can run for mayor, city council, school board, county commissioner, state rep in 2025. It just depends on what part of the year. So if they tell you we don't have money to do stuff, but then you spend $5 million, that goes to show you that the road should be paved anytime they want to be paved. But they wait till election year, because the average person that's when they care about it. Instead of saying, man, like I told y'all before, the South Side had sidewalks, and they was talking about the sidewalk was cracked. I said, you do realize they got sidewalks. We don't have sidewalks. Sidewalks is reducing movement. You can walk and you can go, and you don't have to get in your car to go to the corner store. You can just walk. If you don't have a sidewalk, even though your corner store may be 2 blocks away, it's dangerous to walk without a sidewalk, right? To have, you've been played. To have a city council that does not fight for anything is just a rubber stamp. And I know every one of them. I can call every one of them. Will they answer the phone? Probably after this. I doubt it. But they just rubber stamp. You got a school board that just rubber stamps. I don't understand in the Black community why we have to take so much. And gentlemen, I'm sorry what I'm about to say because y'all are on here. I don't want to ruin y'all reputation. This is coming from Lonnie Malone and not Keith Williams, John Richards, Antwon Womack. It's time out that we're playing the position of the KKK. We killing each other. We calling each other coons and niggas. And I know that's a word. And man, I'm not explaining. I'm tired of when we got to say something toward positivity, we got to go through in a soliloquy of apologizing before we get to the message. We're doing all of this. We're killing each other like it's going out of style, like we're running out of time. Like if we don't kill this amount of people a year, we're not real. Ice Cube even put out there that there's committees that put music out on purpose to draw your kids into this, right? So you got education that's down, you got opportunities that's down, you got politicians who are politicizing and politicking your people. Do you know how much $200 million could help the city of Birmingham? And for John to make a statement that you probably have some city council people that don't even know that was in there. That's a dangerous statement. Apathy, going back to that, that's why I have Womack and Williams and John on here, because we know the ramifications or the results of what apathy does to someone who's really trying to make a change. See, the system of politics depend on apathy because it's less they have to put out. Can you imagine? I knew when in this last race in 55, when Travis Hendricks and Sylvia Swain ran against each other, I said, I'm going to learn something about this race because you got two people that can actually produce more money. See, Travis was going to get the money, but if Womack would have got it or Vess Marable and so on and so on, it would have been unbalanced. You get what I'm saying? Sylvia raised just as much money or more than Travis Hendrick did. You get what I'm saying? So they couldn't just throw stuff out there like they did with, if you go back and look at LaShonda Scales' race, when they said she was going against the LGBTQ community. Now, if you go back and listen to her statement, she didn't say what was said. She didn't. I'm not going to agree with something that when it's not true because I'm not going to do anyone else like that. You understand what I'm saying? When they kept asking Womack, well, Womack, you said this 12 years ago. Why did you say that? Now, who on this call or looking at this live or looking at this later when we go off live, who is the same as they was 12 years ago?
Nobody.
You can look at your spouse. The reason you're supposed to fall in love daily with your spouse because y'all change every day. Everybody change. We're not the same. But to sit up here and push $5 million down the throat of the people by putting it on consent so it doesn't have to be voted on publicly. You are not, the purpose of the mayor and the city council and the school board is to fight for the people. You did not allow the people to even say, I want you to fight for that for me. Clint Woods, Hunter Williams, Valerie Abbott, JT Moore, Daryl O'Quinn, Carol Clark, Crystal Smitherman, Wardine Alexander, LaTanya Tate. Y'all did a horrible job.
Watch this. Now, let me make this statement right about what you just said. It's even deeper than that. And that's why I say it's deeper than that, because they tell you what they want you to know. They tell you when it's something that they think is important to them, they're going to tell you, oh, we're going to vote on this next week. Did you hear them 2 weeks ago talking about, oh, we voting on Birmingham Southern next week? Oh, no, you never hear that. But it's mighty strange that certain items or certain topics that when they get ready to vote on it, it's leaked out to the public, to the press, to the media.
Which is ran by the mayor's administration. He runs the media.
See, all it would take for me is one council person had enough moxie, because I'm not gonna call it guts, enough moxie to just say, okay, when they get the agenda in their little packet the week before, go give it to Channel 13 or go give it to Lonnie Malone and say, hey man, this the agenda next week. Anything on this thing y'all want to talk about, let me know. But see, the public, we don't get it until you walk up there. You don't get a copy of the agenda until you show up and it's on their desk out front. That's how you get it. So if you ain't a party or going down there, you ain't getting nothing. But they got that packet last week.
But look how many people can go, who can take off at 9 o'clock on a Tuesday morning? The average citizen in Birmingham is working.
But Lonnie, watch it right. That go back to, I'm gonna say this. That go back to what I've been saying a long time ago. See, that goes back once again into my classic, the have and the have nots. Because it ain't just got out there now. That has always been strategic to keep poor people down. Poor people have to work. So when do you think politicians and rich folks want to conduct business? See, that's the problem that I have with when black people and minority people get into positions. We forget where we came from. We get into politics and all of a sudden we've forgotten that we are there to fight for our communities. We are there to make changes. We ain't there to keep the same policies going. We're supposed to. One thing I give Hort credit for. Now, he never really done anything but just talk about it. He always would bring up the issue of minority involvement. He always would talk about it, but it's easy to talk about it, but you never did anything. As a council member, there are contracts drawn up. You could easily put in any contract that come up, minority participation, and you get points for that. Why can't we, and this is the argument that I had with Economic Development Office, and I can talk about that because I know it's firsthand experience. Why are you gonna keep telling me that if your ultimate goal is to make it easier for black people or minority people or poor people to do business with the city, to get loans from the city, then if it's a hindrance, if the number one hindrance is to people doing business and getting loans from the city, poor people, small business owner is irrevocable letter of credit. Then my thing, if I'm the economic development director, I'm gonna say, okay, y'all, we need to have another policy. We need to figure out what can we do, because it's our money. It's the people's money. Okay, if my job is to get black people businesses, to get them involved and to grow their businesses, okay, if I know that getting this letter of credit they can't get, well, it's the city money. Then if it's the city money, That means I write the fucking rules. Excuse me, y'all. That means I write the rules. All I gotta do is say, I ain't gonna require that no more. I'm gonna put something else right there instead of that. I'm looking at, we ain't gonna require that no more.
How you ban the box that time? You can change stuff when you want to do it.
Exactly. Watch it right here. See, another thing. They want to say, and I'm talking about any administration, not just this one. They want to say, okay, you got to have bonding capacity. Why the hell do I have to have bonding capacity for a city project when the city is fucking self-insured? Why does it matter how much bonding capacity I got? City money. Why can't the city be creative like they did in Atlanta? Go out and bring in a bonding company that black poor people can deal with. You pay the premium. It's stuff. Why did see? I tell people want to talk about what Maynard Jackson did in Atlanta, but I like to tell people research what Maynard Jackson did in Atlanta. He brought in insurance companies. He brought in all these people to make it easier for black people to do business and get money. They didn't make it harder. They changed the policy that was in place before. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, y'all.
No. Guys, I really got to go. I got a 5 o'clock. I actually got to head over across the street from Birmingham Southern. I got to give me.
Sorry, that's my chance. I'm sorry.
No. You did a great soapbox. Next Sunday we're gonna keep it going. This is for voter apathy, man. We're trying to show you real issues of making people saying, you passed $5 million without me voting. What's the point of me voting? You're gonna do what you want to do anyway. So Keith Williams, man, great topic. Give us 10 seconds. Promise. Keep it 10 seconds, Keith. And then we'll come back next Sunday. We'll pick up. You notice I'm purposely not saying a lot doing these things because I really want to hear from you all and other people, man. But I really got to go. I'm sorry, but this is a great conversation. But Keith, I actually got to go change and everything. So Keith, 10 seconds, brother. Hurry up. One time. Go ahead.
Thanks everybody for tuning in today. We're going to continue to have these tough conversations on issues that people really don't want to talk about. So y'all join us back next week. Thanks.
Womack.
Great conversation, gentlemen. Great conversation.
Great information too, guys. John.
It ain't personal.
Amen. Not necessarily political. Sundays at 3 p.m. for the rest of the year. We will definitely do this. If it's just me or if it's 400 people on here, we're gonna get the word out. Thank you all for joining us from Mobile all the way to New York and beyond. Man, I appreciate it. All the people that keep coming on. Thank you all, and we'll be back.